God is good, isn't he? I tell you what, I just been this week just enjoying the goodness of God. And I keep thinking, what's different this week from any other week? I don't know, but he just feels good this week.
Yeah, it's good. Good.
So anyway, let me go ahead and share the screen and we'll get started because this one may take a while. There's a lot to add in it, but I really want to try to get some feedback, some information, and some comments from you folks. So let me go ahead and share that. Let me make sure that I'm recording too. Did I record?
Yes.
Yes, yes, I am. Okay.
Yes.
I thought I did, but anyway, I thought I did. So anyway, we're carrying on. This is week 11. We have what, two more weeks to go. So we're hard charging through, and I'm just having a ball doing this. I'm really tickled that I was asked to do this. It's a lot of fun. So any comments? Last week we talked about personality and diversity. Personality I didn't talk about a whole lot. There's a lot of people thinking and writing and talking about personality in organizations, but for the most part, it's not something that really does us a lot of good right off the bat. So we understand differences, but we also understand that the differences between us in terms of our personality, we learn to get by with those. So we learn to live with different kind of people. And that's the fun part. So but diversity we spend a little more time talking about. But anyway, any insights, comments, anything you agreed, disagreed, any applications you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think with diversity, it's quite important. I think in you're looking at it in a ministry structure as well, or business, because everyone brings a bit of flavor to the pot. Like it's not all the same cookie cut kind of thing. Everyone's brings different dynamics to the structure, to the team, which
Right.
which helps kind of build it in a way. If that makes sense. It's like it helps to kind of give a depth, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff.
We have a senator here in South Australia who's a Christian, and he's a member of Parliament. And when he's in cabinet, he's actually challenging different people who have written the law here, including diversity, which has to include diversity now, as we know. But when he asks the people, what does it actually mean? They can't answer it. They don't know, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really loaded word. You can throw out diversity and you'll get people saying, yeah, we love diversity. And like you're talking about, when people start trying to, okay, what do you mean by that? I mean, it can really explode. People can really get angry and upset about it. And this whole thing with the Paris Olympics and the people who some people say they were mocking the Last Supper picture, and some people say no, there weren't. There's something else. But the truth of the matter, they really were, and they tried to hide it behind other things, give other people excuses, but they really were. But they said, well, we have to accept them because they're just different. And no, differences are one thing, but I read a quote today that the people kind of on the outside will keep talking about acceptance and tolerance until they become fully accepted and tolerant, and then they try to quiet everybody else down.
That's right.
Try to take control. And so we have to be kind of careful when we're talking about it, that we're being just basically honest and saying, yeah, diversity is anything that makes us different from one another. And so we can try to categorize it as being race, color, religion, sex, national origin, pregnancy, and the disability, which are what the law includes in the United States. But we also have to include other kinds of things as well, including personalities, personal backgrounds, cultures, because actually those
That's
things
right.
really make more difference than anything else.
That's
And
exactly right. Yeah.
yeah, and the fun thing is, it's those differences that really make life fun. You know,
Mm.
if everybody was just like me, I'd be bored silly.
Amen. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Life would
I
be a lot
agree.
easier. I wouldn't have any arguments with well, I probably would argue with myself. Anyway,
I
yeah.
could I just share something as well that the Lord showed me with even with our own children and the people around us when we're ministering to people, teaching people, everyone else has, we've all got a core drive. I call it a drive. And like I've got 5 children, and the Lord showed me that each of them have got, one needs their driving force is acceptance, one is trust, one is a sense of belonging. So in ministering to people, they are going to hear it from that aspect. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's really great. Yeah.
So when we were talking last week about loving people, as long as we come at everything that we're doing in ministry and any team out of love and accepting the difference, they're still going to hear it different to how we mean it because of what's on the inside of them.
Absolutely. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll actually touch on that a little bit today. But I've got 4 children. My wife and I have 4 children as well, and they are just as different from one another as you can imagine. If you see a family picture, you say, "Well, what 4 families are these guys from?" They
Yes,
don't
that's right. Yeah.
they don't resemble one another in any way. And my youngest son actually, when he was a little boy, was talking about, how I'm different from all the rest of them, and I really don't fit in. And I thought, oh, stop right there, because we really have to identify, and you have to treat everybody differently, just like you're saying. You can't.
That's exactly right. Yep.
You can't have some kind of stock way of dealing with people. You have to treat them all differently.
That's right.
My oldest daughter is extremely sensitive, and she will respond with a look of an eye. And so we very, very rarely had to come at her directly about anything, or raising the voice would really crush her. My second daughter was just the opposite. I mean, sometimes I had to just wade in and like a bull and just really. So of course that causes issues as well when she says, she's thinking you treat the other one different from me. Well, yeah, because she is different from me.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
exactly. Yeah. Which
now
in
the thing
turn
I
teaches them to accept diversity as well.
Absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they would say that I treated the others different, I say, well, that's because I like them better than you. So but then I would immediately say, that's not true. That's not true. I love you all the same. I can't. And you really can't,
of course.
you can't describe love for one the same way you describe for a love for the other, because it's a totally different kind of a thing. And so that's
right.
a great
Exactly. Yeah.
Good.
And yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move ahead there. Remember, we have the videos are all posted, and these will be posted today as soon as I can, as soon as it gets up. It takes an hour or so. But this is the 4th week of the 3rd module, Knowing People. And today we're talking about leadership. Next week we'll begin the 4th module, and I call it Taking It Home. Just kind of, it's a wrap up. But for this particular module, this section, how does an effective manager work with people? So it's the people side of things. It's dealing with different people kind of characteristics. So, and when we're talking about groups, and especially diversity and things like that, leadership is critical. For a system to come together and work smoothly, we have to have some leadership to marshal it all and move in the right direction, or move at least in the same direction. One pastor used to say, it's better to be one than to be right. So sometimes we just have to move in the same direction, then we can kind of turn it if we need to. but getting people on the same page, going the same direction is really a challenge. So, now we've talked about systems, vision, mission, and strategy. And now we'll put them together. And the scripture says, without vision, the people wander aimlessly.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and if we're dealing with an organization of any sort, it's a system that will fly apart. Everybody's kind of wandering off in different directions, and all of a sudden the thing comes unhinged and just goes off and flies into, and everything just becomes a bunch of debris laying in the fields and stuff. So we have to have some leadership and understand. So in the United States, I don't know how Australia is about this, but leadership is something it's a huge part of our culture in the United States. Our history is about pioneering, about people coming to the United States from Europe and then and from other places, and then just sort of pushing into new areas and exploring new things. Very entrepreneurial kind of a culture. And so the leadership is something people here just really get excited about. But as far as anybody, no matter where you're from, there's still people have these ideas of I'm strong, I'm independent, I'm self-sufficient, and leadership sort of draws that out, and people kind of get excited about that. It doesn't work that way, but nevertheless, people kind of get excited about it. So,
Right.
and the heart of leadership actually is just envisioning a future, and then bringing other people into it.
Mm.
When several years ago, there was a fellow who periodically would visit our church, and then he later moved there and joined in. But he's a world-known worship leader. And the thing that I noticed about him when he was leading worship was not that he would really focus on the audience and the congregation so much as that he would just worship. And as he worshiped, he would draw, and I told people, you just kind of get a sense that I'm going before the throne of God. You guys come with me.
Amen.
And really a great picture of leadership is, this is where I'm going. I want you to come with me.
Yeah, amen. That's good.
So now, does anybody have a pencil or paper or anything?
Yep.
No. Okay. If you don't, do you have 5 fingers or toes or anything? If you don't, just borrow them from somebody else. Okay, use their finger. Anyway, list 5 people. Just list off 5 people that you consider great, notable leaders, and I don't care if it's somebody you know right now, somebody from you've heard stories about, somebody from history, somebody today, somebody 1,000 years ago, or it does. I don't care. Just 5 different people that you think are good examples of leaders. Just take a minute and kind of come up with some names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have some names now.
Yeah.
Who do we have? Give me some of the names.
Winston Churchill.
Great example. It really is. Somebody else.
Possible.
Apostle Paul. Others.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King.
Are we talking about world leaders or any leaders that we consider to be great leaders for us in our own personal lives?
Anybody at all. It doesn't really matter. It could be your next door neighbor. That's
Right.
Yeah,
Got Dr. Wayne, Maria Edward Etta,
Oh yeah.
and pastor, and one of the pastors from New Zealand, Pastor Peter Mortlock, very great leader, him and his wife.
I think Brian Houston. He was great. Like he's leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Church.
Rodney Howard Brown.
Yes,
Amen.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, those are and some great examples. I've even had people answer that and say, of course, Jesus comes up periodically, and I heard that. I've heard people talk about Hitler, and I thought, it's a negative example, but if you think about what he actually
And it's
made
achieved.
happen.
Mm,
Yeah. So
mm.
so there's some negative sides, some bad examples too. But
Yep.
what made them great leaders?
Ooh,
Vision.
Vision.
Determination. They
Ooh,
don't care too much about being liked.
mhm. I like that. I like that.
the willingness to put it all on the line.
Yeah.
Mm.
Their ability to communicate their vision. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Got it.
And people that can help create vision in others.
Absolutely.
Bringing the best out of people, bringing the strengths out of people.
Yeah. Well, we can quit now. You guys pretty well got it, right? Okay. Well, those are really good comments, and I like that because those are the kind of things that we tend to respond to, and people can really be effective. We'll talk about some key components of leadership, what it's all about, and some different kind of ways we can look at it, and some different things we can do for leadership. But how do you define leadership? Okay, we've identified people and some of the things that they do, or some of the characteristics. What is it?
Really
Mm.
leading people towards a goal or objective
Okay.
as a team.
I read something the other day, and it was a good leader is somebody who doesn't tell someone what to do, but shows them by who they are and what they do.
Love that. Yes.
Okay. Kind of somebody who lives it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think it's a
Yeah.
role. It's someone who has a role to take people in a certain direction or towards a certain objective, like the embassy.
Okay. And I keep hearing taking people in a certain direction, or taking people towards the vision. And
Mm.
that's sort of a theme that keeps popping up here. I got a little side story here, and I'll try to be real quick with it. But several years ago, the university I was at had a conference, and it was a worldwide conference. People came from all over the world. A conference on leadership. So they brought leadership experts from all over the world, and we're kind of sitting there, and it was hosted by my university, and so I was kind of helping, just kind of moderate sessions, and kind of, you know, taking small groups and kind of keeping them on task and so forth. So, but the funny thing was, with all these people who were supposedly experts on leadership from all over the world, the first question they tried to wrestle with was, what is leadership? Now, people have been writing and studying leadership for heavens, for actually for thousands of years, but at least, you know, in terms of modern societies, 100 years or so, and they still couldn't come up. They still couldn't agree on a definition. This is silly, you know. And
Mm.
actually, my academic advisor was here at the time, and we were talking about it beforehand. And honestly, as far as the books and people writing about leadership, I really don't like it. Because if you want to find out what leadership is, a lot of people go to somebody who's a great leader and ask them, okay, tell me. And say, well, I did this, and my organization did this, and it was really, so I'm a great leader. People tell me I'm a great leader, and here's what I did. But what happens is they just tell you what they did, and you don't really explain how you can do something and be successful. All they say is this worked, so it must be the right thing.
Mm.
And but the other part of it is when you start talking about leadership, it is such a big and rich idea that to kind of reduce it down to a book or this particular kind of thing is just it's like trying to write the Bible in a 20-page handbook. It just doesn't really do it justice. So, but some critical must-have characteristics for leaders, the people who are leading. The first one is vision. You guys have nailed this one already.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Vision is, because if you're not leading means going somewhere.
Yep.
Because if you're not going somewhere, then you're just kind of sitting around a campfire talking. So
Yep.
you're going somewhere, and going somewhere means you have to have some vision of where you're going. And so that's a huge part of it is being able to coalesce and have some vision and be able to share that with others. And DJ did a great job of describing that. But there's some others as well. And I think you guys have really hit on these already. Several of them. The vision is the one thing. If you don't, there's no vision, that just you stop right there until you can get one. Compassion is important because you've got to be able to connect with the people that are your followers, as well as other people that you're working with. You know, if you're leading somebody, it's in and there's other things going on around you, and you have to be able to have some understanding for them. Social and political savvy is just simply the idea is I understand the environment around me, the social environment, whether it's a really highly political environment or kind of people are at each other's throats, or whether it's a real friendly environment, whether there's some big dog hiding in the corner that's kind of directing things behind the scenes, and just kind of understanding sort of the social dynamics can really be helpful. Not everybody's expert at that by any stretch, and it's not critical, but it can be helpful. Communication, we've mentioned that one already. Working really hard at keeping the vision alive and at work. Responsibility and accountability, we've talked about that a good bit already. Accepting the baggage, and which is, I haven't really heard anybody talk about this one before, but I really think it's an important. And what is this baggage that I'm talking about? And I think there's three bags that I was holding up for it. Let me see, three bags that a leader's got to carry. Okay, one is being responsible for everything. You have to own it. And somebody mentioned this a while ago, is that you basically everything comes back to you. We had a president, 60 years ago that said the buck stops here. You don't keep blaming, you don't keep accusing, you don't keep passing it off. This is where it ends. And because if you don't do that, you can't change anything. You can't fix anything. Okay.
That's right.
If things aren't going right and you don't own that, then you're stuck. Okay. And all you can do is just sit there and try to deflect. And actually that gets into blame and accusation, or from the adversary. So you have to be responsible. You have to own everything. It all comes back to me. And if it's going well, great, guys, we appreciate it. If it's not, let's see how we can fix this. And it's my job to see that happens. It could be we're doing the whole thing wrong. Maybe there's just some little adjustment we can make, whatever. But if I own it, say, yeah, we can fix it. The second one is leadership also includes an image. And the image is only what does a leader in that particular job look like. Okay. And some of that's the individual. Some of that's the position that the individual has. Rodney Howard-Browne does a great job of communicating who he is, what he is, his integrity, his ethics, and all that kind of stuff. He paints a picture that you can see of this is the person who is the leader, and I know who he is, I know what he is, I know what he represents. A president has to look presidential. A prime minister has to look like a prime. If not, then people don't have any confidence. If you don't know how to act, if you don't know how to act, then people are just not going to really trust you. If you get sidetracked with petty things, if you get wrapped up in distractions and begin taking the low road and sort of getting defensive all the time, well, the job is bigger than your defensiveness. So that's just having that image that you're conveying of leadership, integrity, and character, and those kind of things. And it's kind of a fuzzy idea. I haven't figured out a way to describe it much different from that. And the third one, so the first one, responsibility, being responsible. The second one is maintaining this image. And the third one is being able to operate in the limelight. Because when you're in any leadership position, the higher it is, the more people scrutinize everything you do.
That's right.
And, you know, they pick it apart. What is your family doing? What kind of clothes do you wear? What kind of car do you drive? What kind of house do you live in? You know, what do you eat for
Mm.
breakfast? You know, what time do you get up? What kind of dog do you have? What do you feed the dog? And
And
I mean,
nowadays I can see that because there are so many people that are making it in leadership and like people who have made it in certain areas, they're doing like a lot of podcast stuff, and they're asking people how did you get there, what did you do. So yeah, there's like this area coming up of influence, so other people
Yeah.
can enter into that place. I think now that there's more like social media and access to people's lives and stuff.
yeah. And but, you know, and on the flip side, a lot of people are just not comfortable with people watching them all the time.
Mm.
And you know, they just get uneasy with people kind of picking apart everything they do and stuff. And that's fine. It takes all kinds to make the world go around. But if you're going to be in a leadership position, you've got to really be comfortable with people watching you. And actually, I would suggest you got to be ready to embrace that, because people watching you is a way you can communicate the standards that you have and communicate integrity and communicate
Mm.
all kinds of characteristics that are good for them to pick up. And
That's true.
so you got to be, but you got to be comfortable with that. You got to be okay. Another one is just activity. And I heard this one a minute ago. Just you got to be doing stuff. You know, you can't be passive and be a leader. You can't be sitting down telling people what to do. You know, that's not leading. That's bossing, and people get, as Dr. Wayne says, people start looking for an exit plan. So you've got to be engaged. And I heard somebody say something like this a while ago. You got to understand it's not about you.
That's exactly right. Mm.
People a lot of times tend to think I've got this position and people are looking at me and I'm sitting on a pedestal and everybody's watching me and I'm special. I've earned this or whatever. And so they kind of put this thing on and kind of wear it around like a robe of royalty or something. And I actually had and I've seen people do it, and I'm sure you have too, where they'll step into a new position and you understand that the position carries a lot of responsibility and there's a lot to it, but they're just a little too comfortable with it. And they start making decisions thinking, I've got this decision, I understand this, I'm the boss, everybody needs to respond to what I think, and my ideas are the right ones, and everybody's going to listen to me. And but it's really not about you. I've talked to a lot of people out there, they're just wearing that coat a little too comfortably. You know, they need to understand that it's not about them. It's about the organization. It's about the people who you are leading, because your success is not yours. Your success is their success.
Yeah.
And I think too, the reality is every born again Christian is representing the kingdom of God. So no matter where we are, there is a certain responsibility that we have. I personally feel that for us to even share the gospel is that if we go up to people and we're dressed like really slothfully like beggars and our hair is unkempt and we've got a cigarette hanging out of our mouth kind of thing, we are tainting something that could affect someone else's life for the rest of their lives. So there is a certain responsibility that goes with just the fact that we're Christians, because we're representing a different kingdom, but also no matter where we go, we're still representing the vision of the leader that we are under in the world, which is also under Jesus. So there's great responsibility that we walk into as a disciple all the time.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, very, very, that's excellent. And honestly, I think that kind of makes the rest of it a little easier if we understand that's a good foundation block, because we put that piece of the foundation in place, then we don't have to worry about it. We've got that's the way we live our lives.
That's right.
Some of these other things about being compassionate and communicating and being responsible and accountable and understanding the image that we carry and that we bear. If we have that foundation piece in place, and these other ones they kind of come naturally. That's a great observation. Now, some characteristics of leadership itself. What is leadership like? And this really goes back to what you were just saying, DJ. One is it symbolic? And by symbolic, we just mean that we communicate more by the things we do and the things people see, and then we can give people direction and things like that. But if we're communicating a vision,
That's right.
picture communicates a better vision than me explaining the nuts and bolts of where we're going. You know,
That's
I
good.
can talk about how we're going to get to our destination. If I'm going back to on a vacation, this is where we're going on vacation. I can paint a picture what the vacation site's going to look like, or I can talk about the trip to get there and setting up camp or whatever we're going to do. But it's the picture that people respond to.
That's right.
And so that's what I mean by symbolic. It's the images that communicate. And I shared a while back about somebody asked me what we should do in a particular job we had as far as the quality standards. And I said, we do chicken right. And that's just an example of a symbol of an image that communicated a bigger idea than just cooking chicken, but it communicated the way we did our work and nature of our company and our responsibility we had to the people we did. Another part of leadership is power and influence. Now, to get right down to it, power and influence are the same thing. We like to use power because it's, you know, talks about something having some forcefulness to it. But the reality, power is just the ability to influence people. Anytime somebody can get me to do something or change what I'm doing or thinking or saying, they're influencing me. They have power over me. Okay, so it's really the same kind of thing. And it really boils down to there are 5 different ways we can influence people. And I know that there's some people say, well, there's influence management's a whole big thing. Yeah, it is. But it really still boils down to 5 different basic ways we can influence people. One is just because of the position I have. I'm the boss. You need to do what I say. Okay. Another one is that I can give you something. Okay. I can give you some kind of reward. I can give you some kind of a pat on the back. We talked about motivation. Anything that I can give you that you want or you like, I can influence you because I can give you something you want. The third one is knowing your stuff, being the expert.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand this. If you really want to know how to get this done and stuff, nobody knows this stuff better than I do, or so and so does, and so he or she's the person to listen to. So expert. Another one is just somebody's personal characteristics, their charisma. There are people who people respond to more than other people. They could be saying the same things, but some people are just going to gravitate to one person and start listening more still than they would to somebody else, just because there's something about their personality and the way they bear themselves, the way they embrace and engage other people, that people will respond to. And so that kind of is another we can punish them. Yeah, we can use negative things to kind of punish them or force them or coerce them into doing things. So that's 5 different ways we can do it. Now, a funny little thing about that is there's also 3 different ways people react to leadership. And you know, one is they can be committed to it. I'm all in. You know, I'm with it. Let's go. I'm whole hog. Let's go for it. We're all in. Whatever you need, I'm there. Let's do this. Another one is compliance. I'm just going to do what I need to do, and just as long as I'm making you happy and nobody's making any noise, I'll do what I have to do. The third one is resisting. I'm going to dig in my heels. I may actually be disobedient or not do it, or I may just kind of slow stuff down and drag and cause problems and make ruffles and cause people to get upset or whatever else. It's kind of resisting leadership. Now, if we go back to the power thing and the reactions, we find out that using different kinds of influence will tend to bring out different kinds of responses to it, different reactions. Okay. And so out of those 5 things we talked about, if you use expert power and your personal characteristics, your personality for leadership, you're more likely to get commitment. Now, there's other times you got to use all kinds of. There's sometimes you got to say, do it because I'm the boss. We just got to get this done. Sometimes you got to say, yeah, we'll have a day off. We'll have some kind of a fun thing when we get this one done, some kind of reward, or sometimes they either get this done or else you're out the door, kind of stuff. We got to use all of them at different times, but if we use mostly my expertise, I know my stuff, and if we're tapped into the Holy Spirit, then that's going to be a big step in that direction. Okay, and my own personal characteristics, which goes back to, the things that I've heard before: compassion, love, and caring for people, and as well as some other kind of things. Then people are more likely to be committed, because they're responding to things that kind of hit them inside.
That's good.
If I rely mostly on being the boss, or on giving people rewards, okay, then they're going to do what they have to do just to either, first off, satisfy me and get me off their back because I'm the boss, or get the reward that they're after. They'll comply with what they need to be, but that's all they'll do. They won't really be invested in it. So it's really sort of a transaction more than anything else. And the funny thing is, if I'm going to base my leadership on rewarding people, as soon as I can't reward them anymore, or as soon as they don't want what I have, then I'm done. I'm out again. There's nothing I can do. I'm finished. So rewards are really helpful, but it's dangerous. Okay, and the rewards that are best are, again, we talk about those things we do for people internally, which really comes out of our own character and care for them, where we say, good job, congratulations, thank you, and sort of help encourage them. And another thing about leadership that really is a surprise for most people is that people look for leadership. It's the nature of human beings to look for leadership. Okay. So if you can kind of imagine sitting around, you've got some free time on a weekend afternoon, you kind of got everything done. And so you just got a little break time when you're with some of your friends and stuff, and somebody asks you, well, what do you want to do? Okay. And what do you say? Would it be something like, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you say, I don't know, what do you want to do? And then what does the first person say again?
It's a common response, yeah.
I don't know, what do you want to do? And so you kind of pass that around a few times. People say, I don't know, what do you want to do? And they're just sort of sitting there going nowhere. And somebody says, well, let's go to a movie. Okay. And so everybody says, yeah, let's go to a movie. And you go to the movie, and it was a bad movie. There was nothing about it anybody liked. It was just, and you come out of the movie, and then everybody's mad at the person that wanted to go, right? Why did you get us to go to that stupid movie? And total waste of time. Now I got to go home and kind of get my whole mindset and my attitude straightened back out again. Whatever. And and the person who came up with the idea says, hey, I just came through an idea out. You guys are the ones that said, let's do it, And so you kind of get into, but the idea is that as soon as somebody had an idea of going somewhere and doing something, everybody else sort of jumps on board with it.
Yes.
And which is really kind of funny to watch sometimes, how people will just jump in and go with something just because it's an idea somebody had, whether it's good, bad, or whatever, because they were looking for something, looking for direction, and it's human nature to be looking for direction, especially if it's a direction that kind of pulls people together. Everybody's going the same way. Now, as far as the kind of things they'll tend to look for in the long run, in looking for leadership, of course, vision, the image. Does a person look and act like a leader ought to look and act like, whether they're busy and doing things or just kind of sitting there kind of bossing people around? People like ethical leadership.
Yeah.
They'd like to know they can depend on people to do what they say they will do.
Amen.
Okay. Especially
Amen.
if they've got strong moral values.
That's right.
But they'll still look for ethics and being able to trust that the people will do what they say they'll do, and that there's some consistency. That's not saying one thing one day and another thing the other day. so that goes into character too, that there's this moral fiber that they have, that they're thoughtful, that they're just not doing knee-jerk kind of things and making quick reactions without really giving some consideration of what's going on. Understanding, having a good sense for where we are, who we are, where we're going, and what we need to do to get there, kinds of things, and just being confident. You know, having, and I think DJ mentioned this a while ago, if I remember right, just having a sense of confidence about who you are, what you're doing, and that you can actually do the things that need to be done. So, and honestly, we can all be, and this really does go to what you were saying a while ago about just being in the marketplace and stuff, is that we can have that confidence and we can influence people anywhere we are, in any situation. We can provide leadership to our leaders just by embracing vision and by having ethics and character and confidence in them and confidence in ourselves. And we can give them the idea that they can trust us, right?
That's good.
And they can allow us to some latitude, and that we can be a good support for the whole operation.
Absolutely, that's good. Yeah.
So we can lead our leaders, and just by demonstrating those kinds of high standards and things. So now I think we brushed on this some time back, but are good leaders good managers? Are good managers good leaders? What do you think?
Not always the case.
Good leaders, good managers.
Well, if you remember, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Managers of what?
Good managers, good leaders.
They're separate, I think.
Yeah.
Two separate roles.
Yeah.
It's there you go. It's two separate roles. Okay. We talked about this way back at the beginning. So actually I'm intentionally kind of getting us to go back a ways. Okay. But not necessarily.
No.
Managing has to do with allocating, coordinating, directing resources. Let's get these things done. Okay. This is the job we have to. So the focus is the processes. Okay. And in a system, we've got inputs, process, and outputs, and all kinds of. But the focus in managing is the processes of getting things done. Okay.
Yeah.
Leadership is envisioning and communicating something beyond getting things done right now. It's actually taking people somewhere.
Yeah.
So the focus of leadership is the entire thing, the entire organization, where it's going. So it's and if you look at some famous leaders over time, Steve Jobs is a major influence in the electronic in the tech world, and was really seen as a leader in the things that he did. And I don't think anybody would argue that. But as far as a manager, people hated working for him. he was a total loser at it. But a lot of people who are really excellent leaders, not everybody, but a lot of them who are really excellent leaders, don't do the management things very well. Because they don't have either the patience to get down into the nuts and bolts of things, or they don't want to spend time doing that, or their mind just doesn't go there. A lot of times they're just not very good at it. And a lot of times you see those people like Steve Jobs, and like some other people. Fred Smith with FedEx is another example. He hired a guy named Jim Barksdale to manage his operations and build FedEx when they were first getting started. So he hired Jim Barksdale to be the management guy, and he was the leadership, the entrepreneurial guy. And Jim Barksdale had already done that with another company, but then he got hired from there with Netscape, that became Firefox, to do the same thing. Netscape had these two guys that were the imagination, the visionary guys. They needed an organization guy to build the organization and stuff. So they hired him. By the way, Jim Barksdale's a very wealthy guy now. So they're paid for that. So you can be good at one or the other. You can be good at both, or you can be good at neither one. Okay. They're as you said, they're separate roles. And you don't need to be, you just basically, I think I'm kind of saying, just stay in your lane. It helps to learn leadership skills though. Managers can do better if they can help people grab some vision for why they're doing what they're doing. And
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter, she works for a lady who she has got brilliant ideas, but she bypasses all the necessities to achieve that, even legally and morally. But the vision that she has is wow, because it affects helping homeless people and running op shops and feeding them and all food programs. So she's now got my daughter, who in the beginning got really frustrated with her because she's being stretched, because the vision is now she knows the ins and outs of legally and morally what's needed to achieve that. So she's now her right-hand person, I guess. And because she's got the vision, and she's also, even though she can't do it herself, she literally can't do it, by creating that vision, she's tapping into giftings in other people, but also morally creating something that inspires people, because she's actually doing something to change community. Does that make sense?
Well, that's a fantastic example. And the really cool thing is the lady who's got the vision, they a lot of times they have a really hard time doing that because they don't want to be bothered with all the details. They don't want to be all bothered with all these things that just slow them down and trip things up. I don't have time to mess with all that kind of stuff. Let's get this done. And then your daughter stepping in and says, no, we can't do that. You've got to do it this way.
That's right.
And it takes a leadership with some real vision and some real understanding and a really sharp person to be able to say, you're right, I need to slow it down. I need to let you do your job and me to stick with mine. Give your daughter room to do that is really a great thing for her to do. That's a really special
Absolutely.
thing. It doesn't make it easy sometimes.
No, but the neat thing is,
deep inside.
Yeah, it's helping, but in the end, because they are working together, they're able to change communities and affect communities, which is wonderful. And it just keeps growing, and they keep adding to it, because they're working with the knowledge of each other, but also still accepting who's the leader, who's got the vision, and where they're all going. And it's being incorporated all the way through, and you can just see it's growing in so many areas. It's affecting so many lives for good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And actually, it's kind of like a marriage when you have people who are radically different from one another, trying to knowing when to say to yield and when to stand, and when to it's really a really neat story. Thanks. Some of the basic differences, leadership, and this goes right back to what you were talking about, DJ. Leadership a lot of times focuses more on effectiveness. Are we doing the right things? Are we going in the right direction versus efficiency? Are we doing all the things the right way? Managers will tend to focus on efficiency, and leaders more on effective kinds of things. And some people, I say, have told me that's the biggest difference. That's the only difference between leading and managing it. Well, I think they're selling it a little short. Another one, leadership has a strategic, a big picture kind of view of things, and the managers have the tactical or the operational perspective. How do we get these things done? How do we make progress? How do we do the things we need to do in order to make progress toward that vision? So they'll have a little different mindset stuff. So kind of boiling it all down, managers and leaders both have 4 basic responsibilities. And honestly, if they do more than this, and I keep saying this, and I keep waiting for people to say I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'll keep saying it until I find another reason not to. They have 4 basic responsibilities, and if you do more than this, it's a good chance you're doing things you shouldn't do. Okay, and the 4 things, first off, is casting vision. It helps for managers to cast vision as well. Both need to create a culture. It's really critical. We create a culture that embodies those things. And this really goes to what DJ was talking about the character that you display to people and the things you communicate by how you act and how you present yourself. A third thing is developing the subordinates. You always need to be growing people. And because a lot of times the leader or the manager will start making decisions and doing things that they shouldn't be doing because they should be passing that down to help develop other people. But that also helps create a culture. If I'm giving people responsibility, then I'm also creating a culture of success and of people feeling good about themselves and self-confidence like that. And the fourth one, obviously, is to communicate. It's the heart of it all. So, and I'll reiterate it again. The four things that we need to be doing, leaders and managers: casting vision, creating a culture, developing subordinates, and communicating. And just in case you're wondering what I really meant by that, four things that we need to be doing: casting vision, creating culture, developing subordinates, and communicating. Sometimes you'll find yourself doing other things. Just stop and think, is this something that I should be doing? Sometimes it is, sometimes, and I read a book by a guy who did a fantastic job of building a big financial institution, but even as far as developing the strategy for his company, he had already set the vision in place so he could step back and let the vice presidents really develop the strategy and stuff. Now, most leaders will say they need to be doing the strategy. That's fine. But he just understood that was a really developmental opportunity and helped create a good culture too. So you got to think about, what am I doing? Does it really fit what my responsibilities are?
Mm.
Do we have some useful practice? Yeah, I've already got some. I had some useful things. People are looking for leadership, so look for opportunities to influence things. Look for opportunities and how you present yourself. And again, what DJ talked about presenting ourselves just to the public is a great example of an opportunity to influence what people think and how people act around believers and what they think about the church, about the living church that's representing our King. Model other leaders you can learn from. If you see somebody and somebody, I think it was DJ a while ago, mentioned Dr. Wayne as being a good example. What does he do? What kind of things does he do that I can do? Now, I'm not saying be a copycat and try to just go down list by list and write down everything he does and just kind of be like you're reading a script and being an actor, but see what kinds of things he does, understand why he does the kinds of things he does, and say, I can learn from that and I can do those kinds of things as well. Modeling other leaders is a great way to learn. Setting goals, and that was right up front. Setting goals is a really important part of leading, going towards something. This one I think is really helpful. Is just remove the word failure from your vocabulary. And I see how people, I say, well, redefine failure. In my mind, just throw it away. Because if I failed at something, what do I do with a failure? I'm stuck. It's hard to fix a failure, And you can say, well, what can I learn from that? To me, and this is just me, okay? To me, it's just easier just to throw the whole thing out. I did something, it didn't work. We'll make some adjustments and try again, or we'll throw the whole thing away because it was a bad idea from the get-go. But if I'm going to camp on failures, it's going to get me feeling down about myself, down about what's going on, and I'm going to get a whole negative mindset, and then I can't fix anything. And so I don't even like the word. That's me. Take responsibility for everything. Don't ever kind of push it off on anybody else. It's okay to understand what caused things, but at the end of the day, if somebody caused a problem, why did that somebody cause a problem? What was the situation that set that person in place to cause the problem in the first place? And communicate, and you got to work hard. And we'll actually talk about communication next week. clear values and stick with your values and develop a personal connection to your supporters. And you guys have actually listed several of these things already. So great job on that. And some ways to develop a personal connection, get to know them. We like people who like us. So one way to make a connection with somebody is just to reflect the kinds of things that they do. You don't have to be a copycat again, but sometimes just sort of identifying and understanding the things they like and talking about that can really help them make a connection and feel like they. If I see somebody who acts like I act and likes what I like and things like that, I think that person's like me and I like them. Okay, so and again, I'm not saying to be a fake person, not at all, but just understand. Begin to. Paul said, "I'm all things to all people."
Amen. That's good.
Use word pictures a lot. Okay, describe things with word pictures and stories. Dr. Wayne is great at using word pictures to communicate concepts and ideas. I watch and listen to him do that a lot. I say, man, I wish I could do that. I got to get better at doing it. Learn people's needs. What are your people? What do the people who are with you need? And then meet those needs. Is family really important to them? They really like sports. Their faith, of course, is going to be a big one for them. How do I support and encourage that? Some people like fishing or fashion or whatever kind of things people really like or really kind of an important part of their lives. Find ways to give them information. If you want to give them a reward in that area, buy them a fishing pole or something if they like fishing or whatever kind of things like that. They feel like you really care about them. Okay. Lead by expectations. When we set high standards as a starting point, like we do Chicken Right, we have our high standards, and that's where we're starting from. We talked about the Pygmalion effect. We're talking about motivation. So, and enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Smile, laugh, let your joy come out. Don't get so wrapped up in the nuts and the bolts and the details and all that kind of stuff that you're thinking all the time and not just being grateful and enjoying the moment. What matters is still just like we said a while ago with diversity. What do people bring to the table? What do they do with it? And as a leader, my job is to coordinate that. Okay, to take all that into account. What do do with the people God's entrusted to me? Okay.
That's good.
Scripture says the monkey's on my back because I must give account for I watch for their souls. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, any applications, ideas, thoughts, questions, be sure and jot stuff down. There's a whole bucket load of stuff we talked about, and actually there's whole university programs and Bible school programs built on leadership. So it's a huge topic. Pick one thing that you can actually apply. Okay. Some examples: write out a compelling vision for yourself, for the people or things that you're responsible for. It doesn't have to be something you're official leadership over, but just even you're a leader in your own life. Or 3 things you can communicate to others. Just for some examples, other kinds of things that you might do that can kind of help you get your head into this. Next week, the 4th one, we'll start talking about taking it home. We'll start talking about communications, and there's some really cool stuff in the communications one. I think you'll have fun with that, I think. Okay. Comments, questions,
Really good.
frustration?
That's powerful. It's good. Going really in depth on leadership and that and what it is. Like it's more than just taking a role and ordering people around,
Yeah.
Which I guess sometimes it's easy to forget.
It is. I've had bosses who thought their job was just to tell me what to do. Yeah. I had one who'd get out of his pickup in the morning, tell everybody what to do, and go sit in his pickup till noon, and come out and tell people what to do in the afternoon and go sit in his pickup. and act like he was actually doing something while he was sitting in there. We know better. You're just a lazy toad.
Is everyone able to be a leader, or is someone a follower?
That's a great question, and I think, yeah, we definitely have places where we're followers. With Ignite, we're all following Dr. Wayne,
That's right.
for example. But on the other
Mm.
hand, we all have the ability to be leaders in our own sphere. We can also influence other people, and so
Right. Yep.
just for example, I was when I was talking about this with Dr. Wayne Latelli a few months ago. I actually just mentioned those four different responsibilities. And I said the thing, he had been talking for a bit about some different things at the school and different things. And I said, what's really neat is, as I've been teaching and saying for a long time, that leaders and managers have four basic responsibilities. And I went down through them and I said, you just walked through all four of them, what you were talking about. And so that his response to me saying that said that there was something in what I said that helped him to see something a little differently, not better, not worse, just different, taking a different view of things. And so, okay, so my little 4-point comment had an influence on the guy that's my leader, So, so yeah. And then I've always said you can lead your leaders, and there's some simple ways you can do that. For example, if you get a job done and you go back and say, we always do a good thing. We're always, and I know you're always ahead of the game. So what do you have next for us now? Which is kind of telling your leader, and Dr. Wayne's not going to have that kind of an issue. But you're telling your leader that you need to stay ahead of us, because I've had leaders that didn't do that. Or we've always had high standards. We've done the same thing with this one, which is just creating some images and influence that leader to trust you. So you're providing some trust kinds of leadership and that kind of situation. So yeah, there's a lot of ways we can provide leadership. And just as you said a while ago, being able to influence people just in the marketplace, even if all we're doing, that's not a bad way. I'm going to throw that one. Even if the focus of what we're doing is simply talking to people one-on-one about Jesus, we're still influencing them beyond just the gospel. The gospel is really the message, but how we present ourselves, the whole image, is also providing some influence on them. For them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we're a whole package.
Yeah.
We're a whole package.
I think we can all agree that Dr. Wayne is not going to let anyone get too comfortable, because he's always moving on. So he's always new vision and bringing out new skills and sharpening, and it's great.
Oh, it is. He reminds me of a guy I worked for several years ago, who I loved working for him, but I felt like I could never get caught up.
Yeah, that's good.
I was always just clamoring and just doing all I could, and just felt like, and he didn't have any problems with what I was doing, but he was always so far ahead of me and drawing me so far that I just, and it's fun. It was really delighted. I loved working for him. Actually my favorite boss that I've ever
had. Right, and it's good.
But he wore me out too. He kept me exhausted.
Yeah.
Great job. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much. Father, I thank you for this time together. I thank you for what you've done. And I agree with them for a blessing of meeting needs, of provision, of safety and health, of vision and clarity. And we throw out all the distractions, the deceptions, the manipulations, the seductions that would get us off track, and hone in on truth, mercy and justice and righteousness and grace and your loving kindness, Father. Thank you so much. We bless one another in Jesus' name. You guys have a great week.
Thank you, Fun.
And
Thank
we
you.
we'll catch up with you next time. Talk about communications. Blessings, guys.
Thank you. Bless you.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
See you guys. See you soon. I'll be there next week. Bye.